I am from Belize, and people in Belize speak this dialect called Creole, and the dialect is basically just broken English.
I am very well aware that I have a very southern accent.
I would describe my dialect as primarily Southern, but definitely Appalachian influenced.
I think my dialect is pretty generic. It's maybe what we would say a Midwestern dialect.
I would describe my dialect as Southern accent mixed with, African American dialect.
The reality is that everybody speaks a dialect because we all come from somewhere. A dialect is simply a variety of a language. You can't speak a language without speaking some dialect of that language. So, you can't eat lunch unless you order something like a hoagie or a torpedo or a sub.
In the kinds of classes that I teach, students are very used to thinking about language in both its formal sense, as a collection of rules, and organizing principles that define a grammar. But to think about then how those rules are structured, how they are applied, but also then to think about the social dimension, right? What do people think they know because you follow a different set of rules?
Well, I feel like there's bad stereotypes that go along with the Southern dialect, not as intelligent, so obviously I don't want that part of it to come across.
I'm also a gay individual, and so that's actually probably been the most restrictive part of my dialect. And so growing up in West Virginia, you don't want to be gay, but you also don't want to be stupid. And so those are the two sort of stigmas that were driving the way I formulated my accent.
I've seen my classmates pretty much zoning off. The minute I start speaking, they stop engaging.
I think it's important for, not just members of the campus community who might come to campus already speaking a dialect that's closely aligned with a variety that carries social prestige, to kind of raise awareness that from a scientific standpoint, their dialect is not necessarily superior anyway, and conversely that, students, faculty, or staff whose dialects might carry less social prestige should understand that their dialects, although maybe don't carry the same social prestige, have the same logic, value, validity as dialects that, for reasons of essentially historical accident are considered to be more standard.
Yes, I have tried to change the way I speak just to make others feel comfortable or make myself feel comfortable in an awkward situation.
I had to probably change myself to fit in with the crowd, to fit in with what is normal here, what is expected here. And I remember feeling extremely sad and upset about it. And I felt that I'm some sort of a project and everybody is trying to help me, including people in authority. They're like, oh, let's help you settle in. Oh, let's help you transition in. And and that made me feel, it did upset me. It bothered me a lot because I didn't understand it immediately. And when I started understanding it, I was like, what is the problem? I'm saying the right thing. I am saying it as clearly as I can, and I am making an effort to understand you. So why can't you do that to me? Why are you trying to change me?
As educators, I think we have a responsibility to ensure that language diversity is included in what we sort of consider the diversity canon in higher education, because it's so inextricably linked to so many other parts of who we are. When we list, when we think about diversity and what that means, we can list a whole number of things, and language is really tied to all of those. And so if we want to fully address diversity on our campuses and really create inclusive learning environments, we have to address language as well.
One of the misconceptions is that linguists think that dialects mean you can speak any way and there are no standards. No, that's not the case. There are standards, there are norms for everything, ranging from dress to speech. And the understanding of dialects is not a movement against standardization. It's a movement to understand diversity and what normative speech might be.
Now, when it comes to writing, I think there's a slightly different emphasis that I give. And there, I still believe it's important that we think about language as data, and we understand that that there's not a ranking in terms of any sort of linguistic properties right, as to one dialect being better than another. But I do think it's important that students understand that outside of the classroom, what they already understand, that they will be judged, and that judgment's not always fair, that judgment's not always just, but I think we have a responsibility as teachers to prepare students both to live in the world as it is, but also to have the knowledge and the ability to change it.
Students entering an academic environment have to navigate this issue of voice. Academic writing and academic speaking, academic performance in class is likely to call upon a certain kind of voice that may not match the voice or the language or the kind of writing that is from their home environment.
I say y'all in my writing, and I have to edit it out when I'm emailing a professor because I feel like that's a bad thing to put into an email.
Little sayings like y'all and stuff like that, every once in a while that might like creep in and try to do it, or like I might not use the full because, I might just put cause down, which I've noticed starting to happen a little bit more.
We are all subject to conventions, and writing especially has a lot of conventions. And so part of the task is to invite students into an awareness of what those conventions are so that they can actively make a choice.
Just me personally, I don't like anything where it's like has to be this uniformity kind of thing, because it's great that when you celebrate diversity, you experience so much more and life just becomes fuller in general.
There are some tensions between standard varieties and non-standard varieties, because in certain classes, for example, in writing or speaking, there are standards to be upheld, and not speaking a standard variety is viewed as an error or mistake or something that's incorrect. In reality, it's not a matter of being correct or incorrect. It's a matter of maintaining a kind of decorum that is representative of what is expected in certain circles. So, speaking standard English for various purposes in our society is highly functional. At the same time, speaking a variety that indicates where you come from, where you are situated, and how you present yourself is also an important part of our identity.
I feel that it's important to preserve my dialect because it is a part of who I am, a part of my culture, and the way that I communicate with family.
So my dialect identifies me as a person. It defines who I am because it shows where my ancestors come from, and it just shows like the mix of the culture in Belize.
I've never gone to a university that has like a folk life sort of focus or the study of the American South, the center there. And so seeing people who are proud of those accents and different cultural backgrounds has really allowed me to kind of explore that side of myself a little bit more. And so being able to fit in and kind of talk with them and let some of that slide has been a little bit of a liberation to a certain extent.
Well, everyone wants to be from some place. And that place is usually a place that embodies a particular speech variety. No one wants to be from nowhere. And dialect is an important part of where we come from. It says something about our history, it says something about our development, it says something about our sense of place, and it also says something about our identity with various groups.